All right. So the decision making. So Bard was talking about, and my intro talks about decision making. It's a huge process. And no matter how small the decision is to how big the decision is, you may be making a decision now that could be something you would decide totally different if you knew the 10 things that were going to happen in the next year. So I basically try to keep it as simple as possible when I talk to my clients is, the old saying that says saying yes to one thing means saying no to something else. If you stay true to this, then you will be okay when the 10 other things happen during that year, because you've stayed true to this and you'll be able to weather those disruptions and those challenges. If you talk to a fitness trainer, or a nutritionist, they have the same process. If you say yes to actually something you eat, but you're going to have to, and you take a little bit of a luxury and add something to your diet, you're probably going to have to say no on the other side of the coin. Same with the fitness training. If you have a certain amount of time you're supposed to move, but you skip a day, you may have to say no to something else. So it's the same type of messaging across all of it, which shocked me until I started to explore it further. On top of that golden rule that I just showed you, whenever you make a decision, there's always emotional wealth. Okay, so this is something that goes across both areas as well. So when you make a decision about your health or your financial self, there's always an emotional component to that decision. So like, for example, if I have a client who chooses to move out of state to be closer to family, but on paper or financially, it's not the best ideal situation for her in retirement, the emotional wealth of her being near family long-term actually outweighs those numbers I see on the page 9 times out of 10, because as that person ages and they have their family close by, there's other things down the road that will help them more than just the numbers I see on the page. So that's also a question you have to ask yourself in both these areas. If you choose to spend something on a higher dollar ticket item, you have to also evaluate the emotional wealth you're gaining from that, and decide whether it's worth it or not. I mean, I studied under a behavioral finance 101 professor, and he always told me, the example he gave me is, if you go to Vegas and you lose money gambling, no matter how small it is, it'll always stay with you for a longer period of time because you had a loss. And then if you had a win, if you won $1,000 on the gambling table and you go and you buy a luxury item right in that spot, that exuberance or that pleasure that you get is it's very short-lived. And so the emotional component and the emotional wealth about really looking at your happiness, if you make this choice, will a lot of times change your mind on whether you should make that decision, whether it's worth it. And so that is also what, when you're doing the fitness journey and the nutrition, the coaches are always talking about that. What are you getting from this? How do you feel? When you eat certain foods, how do you feel? There's always an emotional component to it. So I was surprised how they lined up. And I mean, the ultimate goal is your happiness. And if you truly are able to gain that happiness through this process, in the long run, no matter how much money you've saved for retirement, you will be better off because you made those decisions looking at all these aspects.